Hey guys, can you hear me? All right. Well, we have 5 people. I don't know who are the shy ones. Um, oh, hello, Pink Namer. Jeff! Woohoo! Thank you for coming, everybody. We'll give a couple more minutes um, to let people join. Jeff, you want to turn your camera on? What? uh, this is not a Teams or Zoom chat. Oh, Melinda's here. All right. I think important people are here. Oh, oh, Steven's stuck at work. Well, I can see your comments, Melinda, but this is not a Zoom, so you guys don't get to have a camera on. Um, uh, Maybe we should do a Zoom sometime. That'll be fun, huh? Well, anyway, maybe we'll get started. It's about 5 minutes after, and thank you everybody for being here. It really means a lot. I'm so excited to do this. This is the first time I do this. I thought a listening party makes sense because I don't have a band per se to play with. Um, but I yeah, but you know my thing is I'm a recording artist, and I thought it would be fun to listen to the album together, and I'll tell you a little bit about where the songs come from, and since my fans and friends are kind of all over the place, I will do online event, and then I researched, and I'm like, oh, I might be able to do a YouTube live and play my songs, and then we'll listen to it together. I don't know if some of you have heard the music yet, but it was live on Tuesday. And wow, Jeff, you listened to start to finish twice. Wow. Well, thanks. Wow. That means a lot. Thank you so much. Wow. And Jeff, you're on the album. I don't know if you heard yourself, but I can tell you where you are when we get to that track. Okay. So anyway, let me tell you a little bit about my album. Let me just get some of my notes up. I did think about things that I want to talk about today. Um, let's see here. Well, anyway, so this album is called "Found in Darkness," and it's 9 songs, and it's about an hour's worth of music. And um, so the last few years of my life were quite turbulent, and it's kind of interesting that the world at large had a turbulent time at the same time. But some of you know, I went through what I would consider a midlife crisis, and I moved out of my marriage in the fall of 2019, and I sort of became on my own for the first time in my adult life. And there's a lot of soul searching that goes with that. And anyway, I was doing the regular YouTube and singles kind of thing in the late 2019 to early 2020. And well, no, I would say, well, it's more like in 2020 I was doing that. And then I was starting to write some new songs. And obviously, um, as an artist, I, what I write reflects the state I'm in. And I felt that the songs were coming out at the time were things that I needed to hear myself. And after about the first 2 or 3 songs came out, and I had this one old song that I've never released and I never recorded because it's kind of a special song, and I'll point them out later. And then between those things, I was like, oh, this can turn into an album. And I thought that it would be meaningful, given what I was going through, to create an album of songs that reflected what I was going through, and turn that into an album. And as an album, I always think of it as, my sort of a thing is I would want the songs that were reasoned to be in a collection together. So I'm not always saying that a song, an album has to have a story to it, but I would like an album to have a theme or some kind of thread, right? That will run through. Um, that would be, the reason why these songs are sort of, collection together rather than just cobbling together random songs. So I do think of album as a larger body of work, and not just, you string together, a number of random songs, you turn into album. And so that's what happened, is that this is a story, not or I mean, it's not a really concrete kind of story, but there is a progression to the sequence and the lyrics and the music. And the story that I'm telling is not my story, so this is not an autobiographical story. But I always say, my songs stories, they're not my story, but the feelings are mine, if you know what I mean. And yeah, so that's kind of how this came about. Um, Structurally speaking, I think of them as in there are 9 songs, and then there are like 3 songs each to a part. And I even thought about subtitling the 3 song sections. Like the first section will be the crisis, and second section will be descent, and the third section will be outcome. But you guys tell me. I mean, I don't want to explain things too much either, so I haven't sort of done that yet. But if you want to think about it as such, that will be good. And before I get to it, I do want to give some shout out to somebody. First, I want to give a shout out to my patrons. So I do have a Patreon program. These are people who have contributed a few dollars of their hard-earned money to me. Some of them have been supporting me for a long time. So I want to give them a shout out. Eileen, David, Rebecca, Nowell, Paul, Byran, Drea, Abby, Ruth, David, Michael, and Elijah. Thank you so much. If any of you on the video live stream want to join my Patreon, It's Patreon at .com/Ari Koinuma. And all I'm asking for is basically $1 a month. I'm not, doing this to make money, but I really do still dream of having a community around me of people, like-minded people. And I think you will see that I do have a particular focus as far as my artistry and my songwriting is concerned. And yeah, so that's that. And let's see, it's 11 minutes in, and I should probably play one of the songs. But I will say again that this, you can imagine that this story goes to some dark places. So I do want to give you a trigger warning that it goes kind of in a deep, dark places at times. And I hope you stay with me and see how the story ends. Okay, I haven't been paying attention to the chat very much. Hold on, let me just check to see if there are any comments I want to respond to. Okay, yeah, all right. Well, yeah, I think Jeff, you're kind of starting to follow along. I think, yeah. Anyway, you get the point. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the first song. The first song is the Flooding Fortress, and this was the last song I wrote for the album, and I wanted to. Well, I knew that I needed an opening song after I looked at all the other songs, and I knew it needed to be a special song because the first song of the album is perhaps the most important. And I have はい、りょうこさん、ありがとうございます。Anyway, that was a Japanese friend of mine who's tuning in. The first song is very special, and it needs to be a special song. And I'm a sucker for a good intro to a song. Like one of the things that I really admire about like Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, that classic album. If you listen to that album, like every single song of theirs has just this great intro to the songs that by the time you get to the real song, it's just like it just kicks in and you're like, wow, just really awesome. And so I really love a song with a good setup, which can get a little pretentious at times. So I kind of keep that in check. But I wanted a good opening song that sort of represented to set the stage, right? And it is a problem statement, of a song. So this is Flooding Fortress. So obviously, this being the first song, hopefully the audio comes through. But you guys give me a thumbs up or something in the comment and let me know if you can't hear. So I'm going to start playing right now. All right, so that was Flooding Fortress. I think it's interesting that you guys are hearing Stone Temple Pilots. Obviously, Stone Temple Pilots are huge, huge influence on mine. So I'm not offended at all. I'm glad you guys can hear it. But that being said, for that particular song, I did want to share. If any of you are Pink Floyd fans, um, and I did steal the idea of that four-note motif from one of their famous songs. I don't know if anybody if you can guess. I mean, the notes are not the same, the vibes are not the same. So, I mean, totally, just I I I I took inspiration from a particular compositional approach of Pink Floyd with that. Uh, I was going for iconic kind of a sound with the opening four note motif, and just I think you know you will probably recognize it. But anyway, um, so listening to that, and then also yeah, you guys know this. I mean, I played a fair bit of keyboard on this album, and as you know, I'm mostly a guitar player, but I after well again this was one of the last songs written, but like after a number of songs I'm like, man, I can't just do this whole album with just guitars. I just need a lot more palette or colors uh, uh, on the canvas to tell the story. So I did end up playing keyboard fair bit. I'm not a great keyboard player by any means, but piano was the first instrument that I started on before I moved to guitar. So I can do some things on keyboard. So anyway, I do want to give a shout out to my friend Boa, who sang in backing vocals in that thick choir section, and so same thing to Steven. I hope I don't know if he made it. He was stuck at work and he texted me. They sang backing vocals for me. They sang on three songs on this album, and this is one of them. And um, I love Queen, and I love big thick vocal harmonies. It's one of the things that I love in rock music. And but obviously, no matter how many times I record myself, you know, you don't get that sound if you just, or it's hard to get. I know some artists who can vary their vocal tones to still make it sound like a big choir, but I'm not one of them. So when you introduce a few other voices in the mix, it creates a larger sound that you hear in the chorus. So that's what I went for. So yeah, I think I you know I had a certain image is a funny word to use for a song, but an image of a song, as the opening, and I feel that I really went and achieved that vision for the opening song with this song, and it's a tad long, but I just could not bear to cut any of the pieces, and especially towards the ending, and in the climax, it just really it really gets to me, and I would say that of all the songs, obviously I love all the songs on the album, but if you ask me which one is the most me, I think the Fortress is like the thing that I relate to the most. It's the lyrics are rather revealing and obvious. This might be one of the more obvious lyrics that I've written, so that makes me feel slightly uncomfortable in that as you can see, it's pretty, vulnerable song. I usually like to write artsier songs, especially lyrics where you can't really tell like clearly what's going on. And some of the songs in this album are a little bit more toward that vein. But with the first song, I really felt that I just needed to state the problem. So I did. So anyway, yeah. So I guess that's the first song, and it sets the stage. And now let's go to the next song. The next song is the lead single of the album, "The Poser," or the full name is "It Finally Caught Up with the Poser." And this is the first song I wrote for this album. In fact, that chorus came to me in the shower. There were a couple of shower songs in this album, and then I was in the a pretty dark place, and then that chorus came to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, here I go. I'm receiving something that I need to hear. But for the life of me, well, you guys will hear it. Maybe I will just play the song and explain it later. But anyway, yeah. So this is the first song, and I feel that this song is like the, while the first song, might be more me per se in terms of relating to it, but this song is probably, I put it out as a lead single for a reason, in that I think it's the most sort of a catchy and attention grabbing, and it represents this album as a single really well. So here is It Finally Caught Up with the Poser. Let me pull up the lyrics and then I'll play it for you.
Don't believe a word I say. I'm a cut.
Okay, so that was it. Finally caught up with the poser. Um, I hope you find irony in the title. um, I would say that, and if we're gonna get a little personal here for a moment, when you are spend your life compensating for a belief that as you are, you're not enough, and you have to say yes to things that you're not comfortable on. You have to prioritize other people's needs over yourself, and be a people pleaser, overachiever, and all these things that we do to compensate, right? And fundamentally, there's a belief somewhere in that says, I'm not enough. And then when somebody tells you that you are, it's like it's hard for you to believe that. It's like, no, I'm not. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't have to overwork, or I don't have to sacrifice myself, or it's just like it can feel sort of invalidating at first, right? But then the um, part of my journey is to let this idea sink in, and I'm like, oh, actually, I can relax, or I can do things for myself, or things like that. So eh, I would say that the idea like this, right? Like, you're enough. Um, as much music as there is out there, when I wrote the song, I was like, yeah, but I have not heard this kind of message, or sort of perspective in sort of a rock music context. And so, um, yeah, I mean, this was the first song, and it just kind of kicked off this whole album as a creation process. And yeah, so in that sense, I think it's a good lead single, and a song that represents the album. I appreciate all the kind comments about the bass. I wrote this on the guitar, but I wrote the bass riff based on the guitar, and I think I have a TikTok video or short video somewhere where I explain how the acoustic guitar part went to the bass parts evolved. Um, and I don't know if you guys have heard of a band called King's X, one of my all-time favorite bands, and they have a phenomenal bass player, lead singer Doug Pinnick, and he's known for this massive bass tone. And it's a very particular way that you set up your gear. And I have one of his pedals, and so I use that to create that bass tone. And yeah, I'm really proud of that. And the other thing I will say is that when the bass and the drums are doing interesting things in the arrangement, that always lifts the song to the next level, because rhythm is like the heart of the song. Really, it's not the vocals and it's not the guitars; it's the rhythm that is the foundation of the song. And so when the rhythm section is doing something interesting, it always like hit you harder. So that's kind of a hidden secret to arranging a band song. Um, Obviously, not all the songs call for that, but that's something I strive for. In that, I'm not a great fan of like a regular rock beat kind of thing. I was I'm an admirer of great drummers, and I try to do interesting thing when I'm asking my AI drummers to drum for me. And yeah. Um, what else can I tell you about that song? Again, shout out to Boa and Steven in the last chorus there. It sounds massive because thanks to their contributions. And oh, I would say again, if you notice in the way that this character is telling the story, and between the first song and second song, you might not see a lot of progression, but you'll start to see that sort of that movement soon. But I will tell you that this is an unreliable narrator. So really, don't believe everything that you read on in his words. So anyway, so that's Poser. And next we have Kite, or the Kite secretly wishes to land. And this is, well, maybe I'll just play the song and I'll talk about it. So here we go. Switch the lyrics to the next one. And I'll play the track.
Fly away from rookie pizza life. of a sky craving there.
Okay, so that's the kite that secretly wishes to land. And what can I say about this song? The band arrangement is fairly straightforward. I don't know about you guys. I hear a bit of REM in that song. I don't know why. It has that really jangly, bright guitar, and um, yeah, it was. I love the simplicity and straightforwardness of that song. You noticed, I mean, the song starts right away, right? So no pretentious long intro in this one. So, it was just like a straight ahead rock song, and I mean, other songs in this album are more kind of grandiose. So I really like having this something much more sort of a just straight gut punch kind of song in the mix here. But the chorus gave me trouble for a couple of reasons. One, it's a really demanding part to sing, um, but the other, I needed the chorus to be just to differentiate it a little bit more, um, but I tried different harmonies. But that chorus melody goes up and down, and it's just really difficult thing to harmonize, which is my usual way to give a chorus a lift. So I ended up, it's pretty subtle. I ended up just giving it like a slight, partial doubling effect in parts. So that's what I end up doing. Um, the other thing you might notice, I will mention here, is that there are a couple of things that are very much reflective of real life. In the you mentioned the virus in the lyrics, right? I'm of the opinion that well, when I write songs and when I make recording, I am very interested in the idea of timelessness. In that I want my recordings to age well. Hopefully, that's not totally something that you can do it intentionally, but I do have some ideas of what makes a timeless recording and timeless songs. And one of the ideas is to not lean too heavily into like a current event type things. I mean, there are some people who reference heavily like political acts, a particular era, and that works for the time, but then if you listen to it 20 years later, it just, some of the reference gets lost and things like that. So I you know I may write songs based in reaction to things that are happening in the world around me, but I try to get fairly light in terms of referencing them specifically. But by this time, we were in the thick of the initial pandemic. Sort of a what's a good way to put it? that first few months of anxiety, of not knowing how this is going to turn out, and just was very much there. And so I think that kind of insecurity is kind of in this song. And then I had to put the virus in there somewhere, and so I mentioned it in this song. um so anyway, so that's Kite. And let me just check the comments to see if there's anything I should respond to. Yeah. Oh, thank you, James. Yeah, and thank you, Jeff. um yeah. So um that concludes like the first batch of three songs. And part of me is like, well, I mean, is there a story here? I don't know if you kind of see any kind of progress. I do. um well, I think the first three songs make sense in sequence, as far as just purely on the music level, but from a storytelling and uh lyrics perspective, the arc might not be super obvious yet. But I think you will start to see that the next three songs will kind of go into a someplace else. So I'm gonna play you the next song, which is "The World Without Me." Here it is.
Misty early light, no rain at all.
Okay, so the world without me, and I hope I think you guys see that things are kind of starting to go in a particular direction. This is the heaviest and chord wise, actually, it's the simplest song, and I wrestled with that a little bit because it can sound a bit, you know, comparatively speaking, generic. Um, and then of course it's a heavy song, but with this really self-absorbed kind of uh, voice me kind of lyrics, and I'm like, oh man, is this too bombastic? Um, uh, yeah, it just is it odd to have such sort of heavy and heroic music coupled with something that's so, how should I say, pained. Um, and then to that point, I do want to give a shout out to my friend Lori, who couldn't be here because she is out, had to work today. She and I have been great friends and collaborators on and off for like over 20 years now, and I really believe that, like, novels, or like screen or play, scripts, um, music should go through some editing process. It needs to have somebody who is of us, similar mindset and taste, to kind of you know, listen to songs in the earlier stages and kind of poke at it and challenge it a little bit. And a lot of Laurie's feedback I didn't incorporate into my music, but just having somebody else's perspective and going, really, is this the way it has to be, or should it be this way, or is it okay? And having that kind of dialogue is really helpful. And she listened to this song and she's like, oh, it's fucking perfect. So I was like, okay, I guess it is. Um, so I left it the way it is, and I think it has a little bit of like a Van Halen-esque guitar part. I saw that Michael said that it might sound Todd Sprocket, and actually you're not wrong there. Todd Sprocket actually has Todd Sprocket is one of my all-time favorite heroes too, and some of their songs can get fairly heavy, and this is not like a metal kind of heavy song. It's still in the rock domain, although it's pretty heavy. Um, and I also want to give a shout out one more time to Steven and Voa for their backing vocals. Um, and without them, that chorus wouldn't have sounded that big. I also want to talk about the guitar solo. As you know, some of you know, guitar solos are like my favorite thing in the world, and I I never intended to be like a solo artist or even lead singer. I wanted to be a lead guitar player in the band, and I still do. The guy who shows up, who stays in his corner of the stage, and um, just sort of step up to take the solo in the middle of the song, and then go back to his corner and sing the backup. I mean, that's really my dream role, and if I still wanna someday find a great lead singer, even to sing some of these songs to work with. But anyway, um, so I'm particular about guitar solos, and the first couple songs feature guitar solos that are fairly worked out in that they're definitive melody. And with this one, I really want a more jammy kind of solo. And so for that kind of thing, my approach is to improvise the solo. So what you heard is actually not a um, spliced together solos, which other solos are. That one is like one improvised solo from the beginning to the end, and maybe I should mention these things before you listen to it so you can listen for it. But anyway, um, and I will not tell you how many takes I did, probably like 30, 40, 50 different takes. So it's not like I'm superb guitar player who can just whip out amazing guitar solo in one take and be done with it. No, I struggle with it, and then um, but then yeah, I got that take, and I'm like, oh, actually that sounds good, and I still feel that way. Um, and yeah, so that's World Without Me, and then let me just respond to some of the comments here. I see some people joining in. Okay. I hear total Red Sprocket influence in this one. Yes, thank you for spotting that. Is this a song from your experience or someone you know? Okay. So that's a great segue into something I didn't want to talk about. Is this from a personal experience? That's hard to say. Sort of. Um, Maybe not really. I've never probably gone this sort of dark or in this sort of a card kind of. Uh, I don't know that if I've been like a this mentally ill in a sort of prolonged manner. There might have been fleeting thoughts here and there, but I have known somebody who was close to me who yeah have struggled uh, with mental health issues, really severe mental health issues, for some time. So I consider myself a highly sensitive person with high empathy. You guys can look at it, look that up. But I am a person who can feel other people's feeling vividly if I tune into them, if I'm paying attention, like as if they're my own feelings. And so there are good things and bad things that come with that particular characteristic. But yeah, I have um, seen people who are have in sort of a gone to much worse places than I have. Although I mean, like I said, I had my share of issues, but and I feel like I absorb their experience and stories, and that's comes what comes out in these songs. Um, anyway, we'll talk more about that, but in the coming songs. But what I will say also is that if you or somebody gets to a point where we all have what we consider, for lack of a better word, a normal range of state of mind, right? Like even if you're down and out, if you're, most of us, most of the time, don't think that maybe the world is better off without you, right? I mean, that's just a level of sort of compromise or illness that's taking place. And if you ever get to that, or if you know somebody who is, the thing is, once you go lower than the normal range of mind or mental health, and you're in a really sort of a mentally, you know, ill type place, all the sort of the traditional wisdom of things like, oh, listen to your heart or trust yourself, all the things go out the window, and your mind starts saying things that is a downright lie and distortion of what is the reality, and your mind starts twisting things, and you start believing and thinking things that might not be true at all, or very very sort of a dark and twisted way of looking at this. I think that some of you may be able to relate to that. But so when you notice that that's happening, if you at least have some sort of corner of your mind that can sort of keep it separate and say, oh wow, I'm really not in a good shape, right? I start thinking things that are just not true, right? Mental illness is a liar. Um, if you know somebody who is in that place, that's a trickier situation because you can't go up to the person and say, no, that's a lie, you shouldn't believe that. I mean, that's very tempting to say, but that's very invalidating, right? That's true to them. So you want to try to be there for them, and then sort of as much as you can try to validate their feelings. They're in a very hard place, and they start thinking that the world might be better or their loved ones may be better without them, and that is a place where they shouldn't trust themselves. And if they're in that kind of place in a prolonged way, or if they keep going deeper, I mean, there might need to be intervention, right? I mean, I know I'm talking about really heavy things. I'm not a professional, but I have some experience with this. So this is the beginning song that starts dipping into that area, right? I said that this main character is an unreliable narrator. In that you shouldn't take what this character is saying as the truth in that the story. Anyway, hello, practice. Good to see you there. And then there's somebody that first, I don't know who this person is, the blue icon. Hello, thanks for joining. And Steven is here. Thank you, Steven. You just caught the last bit of the song that you sang in. But everybody's Renegade Cartel is Steven's band. He's in the New England area. He is an awesome singer and bass player and songwriter and guitar player. And he is a big fan of Japanese rock band Bees. And he and I got connected because we shared the love of King's X. And Steven generously lent his voice for me. So, that's Mark. Hey, Mark. So go check out Renegade Cartel. They're a great hard rock band from New England area. And if you're in the area, you might want to go check them out. And I loved having Steven's voice in there. Steven's has a kind of a rounder voice that blends really well in this situation. It adds this thickness to it, which is, I really appreciate it. And Bo and I have really compatible voice too. When he and I sing together, we sound like we're bigger than two people. So it's great to have these collaborators. For sure. Let's see. Oh, Byron, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I should move on to the next song, but I would say that what I come from Japan, and Japan traditionally had a culture of glorifying suicide as a way to preserve one's honor, and it still has a very high suicide rate. So it's a cause that's near and dear to my heart, and yeah, and I mean, obviously you'll see in the later album where this is going. But anyway, so this is the start of the descent, and and then let's see where it takes us in the next song. Um, yeah. So this next song is called "Played Out That Story Again." Let me cue it up. Let's see here. Played out that story again, and it goes something like this. This one is maybe I should tell you just a little bit to what to listen for. This one has a fair bit of keyboard in it. It was really fun to play this much keyboard in a song. It sounds kind of orchestral in a way, and I don't know. I really this one I guess is like the archiest of the songs on this album. The lyrics are kind of out there, and the chorus isn't as catchy, but all in all, I've really grown to like this song. I mean, I like all the songs in this album, but this one just kind of came together in a way that's really unique for me. And it's a song that it might not grab you like as strongly initially as the other songs, but I think it's the kind of song like it will really grow on you after time, and yeah, I'm really fond of this particular song. So play it out that story again.
I could not believe my ears when I heard that they played out the story again for love. They showed me this chain on my neck could be shattered with a need to depress, clamp down the cry for help with a shove. To my heart thrown outside of this breastplate. Can you bear to wait for hands from above? But the good news, seeing the world believe my ears when I heard that they played out that story again for love.
All right, so that's played out that story again. I do want to say thank you everybody for all your kind words. It means so much to me that you guys are here and listening to this and digging it. Oh man, I worked on this for what seemed like a long time, obviously, and all the while, obviously wondering, is this any good? And I mean, I think all artists, have a healthy amount of self-doubt and insecurity and things like that. But oh man, it just means so much that you guys are here and digging it. So thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you're here. So yeah, this is an interesting song, isn't it? It goes places, and um, yeah, I feel pretty proud of that. Something I can tell you without explaining too much is, and then some of you are musicians, right? Um, I created sort of the richness in the arrangement by doubling some of the parts with different sounds. So if you listen to it with headphones, like towards the end, like some of the melodies are being played on a guitar and keyboard at the same time, and they're kind of blended together. So live, if just keyboard plays it, it will still cover the part, but in the recording context, there's additional sort of a interest or layers in there. Um, and and then I would say that I don't know if you guys caught the reference, but this was inspired by event that happened not too far from where I live. And by the way, I should mention I'm in a hotel in Dallas right now. This is a pretty artsy hotel, and look at that big painting in the back. This is not my home. um, I just I was playing. My job asked me to travel this week, and I was like, oh, I turned it down the travel last week because I was playing guitar in a musical, and so I'm like, oh, I better travel for them my job this week, and um, it's yeah. I was like, hopefully the hotel has good internet so I can still do this host this listening party, and it did. So I'm glad it worked out, and also I would say that this YouTube listening party thing did take a bit of finicking around with software and different tools to kind of get it set up. So I'm really glad it's working out. But anyway, this song was inspired by a particular event. I don't know if anybody has a guess as to what that is. And I think the clues there are the words like neck, you know, and I can't breathe now. I guess it's pretty subtle reference, but it was yeah, inspired by some nationally known tragic event that happened in my neck of woods. Which was anybody have a guess? It's the George Floyd incident, and I was already in a precarious place that when that happened, and it happened about 15, 20 minutes from where I live. I knew the neighborhood, although I didn't know the exact location. Um, and I mean, very affected to have that happen in my neck of woods. and of course all the riot happened, and some places in my neighborhood getting boarded up. It just um and where this song to me is in the story is that, I mean, what we are all connected, and what happens around us affects us, right? And that incident really was something that made me go, oh, what should I have faith in this world? I don't know about you guys, but in me, I mean, there was still definitely idea that police is somebody. Police is a people that is there to protect us. And when something like that happens, which obviously that's not the first time and that's not the last time, and I mean, I'm not saying that I might be naive or whatever, but it just the fact that it happened so close to me obviously hit me in a whole new different way, and this to me is a song about losing faith in the world. It's about not no longer being able to hang on to the idea that people are fundamentally good, or that um, what you thought was your world just kind of crumbling down. And I also, the opening and the closing lines, it just, history keeps repeating itself when we don't learn the lesson, you know? So, is it out of love or what that it keeps repeating? But it's just, yeah, it's very, uh, uh, it was, I know I'm repeating myself now, but um, I just wanted to capture how I felt into this song without being super specific, like I said earlier. Yeah, and we Stephen, I hear you. Yeah, it's it's hard, right? I mean, you go through life and you form relationships, and what relationships are based on certain sense of trust or agreement or expectation that you have, and when that's violated, you just don't know if you can trust that person again, and sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. And I don't know if I have anything profound to say about that, but what I would say is that we just hopefully find enough strength and have a core support system around you to keep going. And sometimes you have to ask for help, and you have to be really explicit and say, I need you to be there for me. Um, and I have some people like that I can count on, and I hope everybody does too. Um, but there were periods in my life where I didn't know that I had that around me, and that makes for a very um, lonely and hard place to be. And again, that's kind of the part of the journey here. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna play the next three songs without interruption, and there is a reason for that. But guys, I'm glad you're again. I'm glad you're here with me, and this is like this is kind of the next set of songs are the the bottom, like, or I could say the climax, and it goes to the darkest place of them so far. So I'm gonna let you kind of find out what happens to this story, and then we'll talk about it. So the next song is called Exit Part 2, and there's a reason why it's called that I'll tell you later. One hint is the fact that I'm a U2 fan, but I'll let you hear. And then after that is Perfume, and after that is World is Better. So let me cue up those songs. All right, that was not intentional. Let me see, let me see what happened here. I guess I will try the way that it was working. Sorry about that. I don't know exactly what happened. Let's try this.
saw my empty room, yet full of dark things, watching me from the floor. This whiteness is meant to me. Can I hide it with perfume? Please don't come after me. I don't want to lock this door from you. All the people talking to me, but who can I talk to? This baggage is so heavy, it weighs on my head. The only way to take me off is to throw away the dirty shoes. I won't need them anymore. I learn to fly instead from here. Climb up these stairs, at least I'm going up. My dear knife, please shine on me. Let this dirty blood flow out. I'm so empty, I'm worn out. I want this train to stop. This is the last time I'll cut myself out from here. From here. Just when I got ready to go, I saw you standing there with a cold body and a bruised heart. I didn't know why you were hurt. Then I realized you were dying with me, and my escape will not be fair. My death will not stop any death. So we stood up to start together. Sometimes the going gets tough. Sometimes you feel it's too rough. Sometimes you think you're unfit, but the world is better with you in it. Sometimes you feel so unsure. Sometimes there's no real cure. Sometimes you're stuck in a pit, but the world is better with you in it. The world is better. The world is better. The world is better with you in it. The world is better. The world is better. The world is better with you in it. I know the pain is overwhelming, and it feels like forever, but you're not alone in suffering, and your light still shines and lights up that bright. So know that you are enough. Know that you are loved. Know that there's a place where you fit, 'cause the world is better with you in it. The world is better. The world is better. The world is better with you in it. The world is better. The world is better. The world is better with you in it. The world is better. The world is better. The world is better with you in it. The world is better. The world is better. The world is better with you in it.
So that's the three songs that are the climax of the story. I hope it kind of, how should I say, made some well. I mean, I thought you were able to follow. So I don't know if you guys are YouTube fan. If you guys saw the exit reference to YouTube. It's one of the darkest songs of YouTube's catalog, and I kind of modeled the darkest song in the album around it, and yeah, and then the Perfume song. That's actually the one exception in that that's actually an old song of mine. I wrote it around, I don't know exactly when. It was probably late 90s, so it's really, really old, and I was a young man back then. And, I don't remember much about the time, well, whatever inspired me to write that song, except, yeah, there were moments in that era where I had some fleeting thoughts about, oh, I the world is better off without me. Yeah, and I wrote that song. And I do want to say that, like, this is not a story of, meant to be some kind of, you know, uh, totally representative of, what happens in real sort of a mental health kind of situation. I think that based on what I know, if somebody was truly, truly in that place where they believe that, you know, the world is better off without them, you know, they start thinking that their loved ones are better off without them. So what happened in the story may not happen. Like, like I said, if you're in that really deep dark place, that person really might need just intervention, because what they're thinking in their mind can no longer be trusted. And then I've been in the situation, but when somebody's in that place, it's just really hard to relate, and it's really hard to follow why they're thinking that way and why they came to that conclusion. And it's just really like, there's a different version of that person. And anyway, so I don't want anybody to start thinking that if you got through to the person who's considering killing himself, to that their loved ones who the devastation that will cause to the loved ones, like that kind of argument will really get through to them. I'm not saying that it does, and it can. But on the other hand, I do want to share this with them. I always get emotional when I tell this story, so bear with me. But much later, after I wrote the song, my father was dying from ALS. It was like 15, 16 years ago. And I don't know if you know ALS. It's a progressive disease where over time you start losing muscles in your body, and you start being able to do you stop being able to do things that you count on doing, like lifting arms or walking or chewing or breathing. Right? I mean, it's a really cruel disease in that it doesn't affect your mind, but it affects your body, and you're stuck in this body that's slowly losing its power. And there's no cure, and they didn't know how long my father had. So rightfully, he was tempted to end his life on his own, because it was getting really unbearable not be able to do things, and even breathing and stuff was becoming uncomfortable. And he told me that how he would look at tall buildings and just go, oh, isn't it just easier if I could just jump from there. But then he said, but when he thought about how that kind of end will affect his family or his loved ones, he said that he couldn't bring himself to do that to us. So he stuck around until the bitter end. And that's, I mean, we all live because we can feel joy and happiness, and we are loved. And I think everybody hopefully feels that they're loved, and there are people around you that makes you feel that way. But I also think it's equally true that we live because we love. Our lives are not just our own, and I have children myself, and when I think about them, I'm like, oh God, I gotta stay alive, and I gotta live my life well, because if I don't, that's gonna affect them, right? And you guys on the line are my friends, and I I want to live. I want to live for the people I love. So it's a situation where life kind of imitated art. Again, I don't want that story to be something that it can't. I am not saying that that's true or that can happen, but um, at least it was in a weird way the life and my creation kind of connected, and just kind of I just found it really fascinating and meaningful and all that. And then this song, "The World Is Better," came to me in a shower one day again, and I was like, oh, I guess I must need to hear this message. And I had an idea to turn it into a virtual choir piece. So I do want to give a shout out to all or everybody who participated in that project. I I took myself out of that recording, so I'm not singing in that recording that you saw. And these are the people who participated in that recording: Kelly, Rob, Casey, Jeff Cashmere, who was on earlier. If you listen really closely with headphones, he's strumming the guitar instead of clapping, so you can faintly hear him on one side of the headphones. Steven participated in that, Chico and TJ, Jamie, I don't know if she's on, Ryoko-san, domo arigatou gozaimasu. And Andrea and Mark, you're here. Oh, thank you so much. And Jiran, thank you for your participation in this song. I realized that, I thought it was a fairly simple song, but it's still kind of a lot to like ask people to just learn a new song and sing it on camera. And so again, I applaud you for your bravery. and yeah, it's really I just listening to the song and the words I put into it, and how it's a simple children's chant, and yeah, and between that song and then the last song that I shared, which I've been holding on to Perfume for a long time, and then I was just looking for a very special occasion to share that song, or make that song to come to life. And between what I was going through and the kind of songs I was writing and that song and then this song, I was like, oh, I have a concept album, right? So that's just kind of how it came together. Yeah, so that's kind of where the climax of the story. And next song is like the conclusion, and let's see what happens to this character. I would say that, and I'm sorry, it's already 9 and it's going a little long. I hope you guys can hang on for a little longer. This is the last song, and yeah, I want to sort of play it for you guys. Yeah, りょうこさん。やっぱしりょうこさんはりょうこさんですよ、僕にとっては。Okay, so here we go. The last song is called Lost in Neverland. This one went through quite a bit of evolution in the recording and arrangement, and yeah, let's listen to him talk about it.
I hear that life is beautiful, but today downstairs is calling me. Curtains cover up all the windows. A lock is what I need to feel free. No bright lights are needed here, just some walls to shield out the shadows, answers and pleasers. They name what I will miss out, but I feel out there doesn't hold a key. Don't
So there you have it. Lost in Neverland. This song I really loved. It obviously is well, yeah, well, I'm just looking at everybody's reaction. Thank you so much, everybody. It just oh man, it just fills my heart to see you enjoying this. And paint namer, the glory of music. That's I appreciate that. And Stephen, I'm so glad you like it. And everybody else too. It's just yeah. Again, thank you for being here and thanks for hanging out kind of late. Yeah, but we'll wrap it up. Anyway, this song I really loved, and the thing that I like about this song is that yeah, the music is happier and hopeful, and but there's kind of a sentimental part to the song, and then lyrically, if you read what's going on, I mean, the guy kind of goes down to the basement and lock himself up in the dark, just um, after sort of coming back from the depths. I mean, it's not exactly a happy ending, right? I mean, musically, I know there's much that sort of carries you forward here, um, but it's kind of, to me, that's just, this is the part where it gets real, is that, I mean, I spent, you know 3 years or so since my marriage ended. Just I spent so much of that time just laying around, in dark places. I'm sensitive to light, especially when my energy is low, so I have to turn off all the light and get quiet, and so yeah, this one might be the most sort of reflective or autobiographical of the songs. And um, something that I want to share with you is that earlier Byron said that time heals, and it does, but it's not just time. It's time spent feeling whatever it is that you need to feel, and all of us are carrying all these unresolved, unexperienced feelings. It's in a mechanism to, when you have overwhelming feeling, whether it's sadness or shame or anger. If it's too much emotion is generated from any life event or over time, right? We can't feel it all, so we kind of sort of store it in our subconscious, in our body, and over time it comes out and you feel it, and then that's how you sort of process your baggage, and you become lighter, and you get to a better place. So it's not just time. If you spend your time numbing yourself or distracting yourself, which people do with addictions and things like that, right? That doesn't really sort of make progress. The time that it makes progress is you spend your time feeling whatever it is, the hard, difficult feelings that you need to feel. That's what you need to feel. If you watch a little kid throw a tantrum, if you let a little person have at it, eventually the kid will be done throwing a tantrum, and then after that, they will act like nothing happened. And as we go in life, we just learn to sort of stop feelings inside ourselves instead of just feeling it all out. It's just not acceptable as an older person to throw tantrums, and for good reason. But anyway, so this character at the end is, and he's waiting for rebirth. I mean, maybe he didn't survive, or who knows how. I'm open to different ways to interpret this, but that's kind of what I think about in this song. And originally, that middle section was shorter, and then after I listened to it, and then after all the dark parts of the earlier album, and this song and then the Perfume song, I had to extend it quite a bit, because if I sort of presented these shorter songs, it just did not seem to earn this sort of, more uplifting ending. It just seemed like it was just such a too sudden of a shift in character. So I inserted a lot of stuff in the middle section to kind of elongate it, and so that you feel a lot more sense of reward, or just the sense of arrival when the song comes back for that conclusion. And yeah, listening to it, I'm glad it did. Although it's rather long to be a single. I think this song could be another single, but I might edit it back down to the shorter version, make it a Patreon or only release or something. I don't know yet, but it's just something I think about. And speaking of patrons, again, I want to give a shout out to my patrons. So they are listed right here. Eileen and David and Rebecca, Nowell, Paul, Byran, thank you for being here. Drea, Abby, Ruth, David, Michael, thanks for being here. And Elijah. And of course, Stephen for contributing to this recording. And oh man, um, it just I spent a long time doing this, and it's nice to come to this point and to be able to share it with you guys. Just one, and again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. My plan, having released this music, is to go back to more of what I was doing before, which is making YouTube videos and recording singles and covers. Again, you could tell. I mean, this album took a lot out of me, and it took a long time. And I don't know how this, just stringing 8-9 songs together, and the whole thing just becomes something so much bigger. And I'm looking forward to going back to like doing like one song at a time, kind of thing. And I would obviously, my dream obviously is to play these songs live and stuff, but it takes very special collaborators and bandmates to be able to pull this off. So rather I will look kind of casually locally to see who is out there now that I have a recording, and I could show it to people and say, yeah, this is the kind of thing I want to do, but I'm not gonna rush it. I think my strategy is to keep working on YouTube videos, and you saw, I mean, you recently you saw me a lot more active on social media with shorter videos and stuff, and if I could get more of a presence, I'm hoping that I can use that to attract like-minded musicians, and to eventually turn Aristotle's hope into a band. I mean, it happened to Foo Fighters, right? One can always dream. So that's all the things. So that's my plan. And but this was so much fun, guys. And maybe after having a few more singles or something, maybe we'll do this again. Yeah. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm sorry it went longer, but yeah, we had a lot to talk about, and thank you for your comments and everything. So yeah, thanks for spending the evening with me, and I'm glad you were here to um, hang out with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Byron. りょうこさん、どうもありがとうございます。Yeah, and Mark, and I don't know if Melinda's still here, and Paint Memory, and Practice, and yeah. All right, thank you, and have a good night, and we'll connect on social media and stuff again.